lot of times we make choices in our lives and then we resent the very choices we've made. I have a baby. Now I'm going to resent that baby for needing things. We may come by that instinct, honestly, but it requires really pushing ourselves and saying, no, I chose to have a baby. This baby didn't come impose himself or herself on me. And, I chose to have a teenager by having a baby. Okay. Like that is to say, even when they're difficult, even when it's hard, I have a responsibility to them, not the other way around.
Yeah. It's the Best Birth Podcast, where we interview experts that elevate you as you prepare your heart and mind to have the best birth.
Each episode will interview professionals so you're prepared for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Our experts will build your confidence and empower you to trust your intuition throughout your pregnancy.
This audio is taken from videos on YouTube. Watch the entire episodes on YouTube at Birth Made Mindful. You're listening to the Best Birth Podcast. Today, we're here with Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, a relationship and sexuality coach, and we are so excited to dive into this conversation today.
Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to talk about intimacy as it regards to pregnancy and postpartum. What would you say is a big component that women can do as they're entering pregnancy to cultivate a mindset around this?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, when someone gets pregnant and a couple is kind of in that transitional period, there's just a lot of changes in one's body, changes in the way one thinks about themselves as a person, the way one thinks about themselves as a couple, even just like literally that your body is changing every day. And so you don't even fully recognize yourself. And in a way, just to have some compassion and some awareness that that's likely going to be the experience, and to be a little thrown off by it is 100% normal and understandable. And so to just have a little bit of like self-compassion and compassion for yourselves as a couple just out of the gate.
I remember the pregnancy of my first son. It was almost as if my morning sickness was triggered by touch. So anytime my partner would like touch my elbow or like touch my back, I would have this reaction like gagging. And it was so hard for our relationship because he felt as if like his touch was now, repulsive to me.
Yeah.
So do you have any tangible things that you can advise us when we are kind of having physical barriers to our connection, to the intimacy with our partner?
Well, again, it just is like having a lot of compassion and self-regulation around it, right? Like for the husband who's like, wow, she's so into the fact that she's going to have I mean, I'm just imagining. She's so excited about becoming a mother, and now she's also getting nauseated when I touch her, like there's a bit of self-regulation that he's got to do around that. Like some fear and some feelings of rejection, and maybe being a mother is going to be more important to her than the two of us. And for a lot of men, they do have that experience and that feeling. Can I just maybe go with the flow a little bit? Like try not to take it too personally. Know that this is a transitional period. She's not going to always be morning sick. She's not going to always not want to have me touch her. But she might have feelings about that, over the next many months. That's very possible. And how do I stay? I think where people kind of don't do as well is if they get very focused on how it all affects them, as opposed to what is my partner going through, right? What is their experience? And how can I continue to be a friend to them and be a partner to them in what we're going through? That's a couple that's going to be much more likely to continue to have an intimate relationship, even if there are gaps in the physical experience because of different things that are going on with the pregnancy.
And do you find that it's mainly communication that helps us to fill those gaps?
I would personally say it's communication. I think it's self-regulation, and then the communication that happens naturally from that. Because if you're like, oh my gosh, my wife doesn't love me anymore, and now I'm going to talk to her about that, that's not going to make the marriage go better. Do you know what I mean? Right. So a lot of times we use the platitude of communication, but I don't think communication is always a virtue. It depends on what you're doing inside of yourself. If you, though, are recognizing I'm overreacting to this, and I'm just gonna try and calm myself down. And, you could maybe say, like, it's a little hard for me that my touch is instigating your vomiting. That's a little hard to not take it personally, but, I'm okay. Well, then that's gonna be a helpful communication. Like, you can see that I'm, like, a little bit concerned, but I appreciate what you're handling for the two of us, that you are feeling this much nausea just by carrying our child. I feel for what you're going through. Well, that's a communication that's going to bring the couple together ultimately. So it's about looking at, am I, yeah, it's legit that I'm having a feeling. And also, what can I learn from it? And how do I continue to be a friend here for both the woman and the man in this situation?
I love that you bring up self-regulation. And the more I learn about marriage and relationships and all the interactions we have with other people, it always comes back to we have to work on ourselves. We have to change ourselves. And I think, oh, dang it. We can't control if they're other people. We can't, sort of influence what they're feeling and thinking. But you're right. It comes back to the work on ourselves and self-regulating that. And so even if it is our partner, just finding ways to navigate that or communicate when it is appropriate.
Yeah, and the
I
more
remember.
self-regulated we are, I'll just say this, the more self-regulated we do have, the more positive our impact is. So if you're coming in and saying, like, I feel for what you're going through, it's a little hard for me that you feel nauseated, but I can't imagine to be that sick all the time. I really appreciate what you're doing. Meaning that is to influence your spouse in a positive way if it's coming out of something honest in you. So it doesn't mean we don't have influence. It's just we want to think about, am I handling myself so that my influence is actually loving and fair?
Yes, very well said. I love that. I remember hearing before I got married that when we were going to have children, it was going to dilute our love
Mhm.
because the focus is more on the baby and this new person added into the family. What would you have to speak to that?
Yeah, well, that's a very pessimistic view to dilute your love.
I agree.
Yeah, it is true that it is going to transition, and the more needy among us have a very hard time with that transition, right? Where if that is to say, if I can't handle that my spouse is going to be distracted, and I'm going to take it all personally, this is not going to go well. This is going to get worse. But that's the thing that dilutes the love is the reactivity, not the fact that there are transitions or shifts or an expansion of love, right? So I think that I teach a couple of online courses about marriage specifically, and the one of the theses of the marriage course is the way you handle yourself when you're not getting what you want determines the marriage, right?
Mm.
And so you want to always get what you want, don't have a baby. I mean, don't get married, have a cat. Well, I don't even know. Have a plant. I mean, that is to say, when you love someone, you're going to be disappointed. They're not going to always be there to reinforce you and to give you what you want. And if you can't handle it, or you punish them for that, or you are hateful to them about that, you're going to create more suffering, more misery, and more division. That's the problem.
Mm.
Not like, my spouse isn't available to me. If I'm going to resent that, right? Or my spouse doesn't instinctively jump up when the baby cries and I resent him for that. Okay, well, you can sit around and resent it, or you can think through it and talk through it and say, how do we work through this together in a way that works for who we are as a couple and who our child is? Can we be friends as we take on more as a couple? That's what it is to have a child. Or are we going to start seeing this in terms of loyalties and competition?
I think to reframe, instead of diluting the love and the experience, that you are expanding.
Yeah.
Your love is going to grow, your love is going to expand, and the attributes and characteristics within yourself are also going to have to expand. I think that's why many people speak of parenthood in a transformative way, right? They're saying, I didn't know all of these things could exist within me, and now my patience is being tested. I'm not able to get everything I want when I want it. I have to practice selflessness. And so we have these opportunities to work on ourselves and to
Yeah.
expand and to grow.
Yes. And I would say it will expand if we let it, if we choose it. So if we resent it, well, maybe our heart won't expand. But if we say, okay, how am I going to love in the face of being disappointed? How am I going to love in the face of being stretched? Then our souls and our hearts do grow.
Right. Can we talk about resentment a little bit? I feel like
Sure.
this is a common feeling that we have either as, a spouse or a parent when times are getting tough. And that's probably going to be a daily experience when you have either a newborn or a toddler. The times are tough. Do you
Mhm.
have any practices that help us to work through resentment?
Well, I would say that oftentimes resentment is just easier than taking responsibility for our lives. So I think of resentment as often an indulgent position. Now, I don't mean to say that there's nothing unjust that needs to be addressed. Sometimes that resentment is pointing us to, but often that it's easier to just sit around and be angry and a martyr or judgmental rather than is there something here I need to deal with to go deal with it, right? To go talk more honestly with my boss, my partner, my, friend, whatever the situation is that you're resenting. The other thing I would say is a lot of times we make choices in our lives and then we resent the very choices we've made. I have a baby, now I'm gonna resent that baby for needing things. And I think we have to push ourselves and say that's a lot of times people who do that had a parent who did that to them. So we may come by that instinct honestly, but it requires really pushing ourselves and saying, "No, I chose to have a baby. This baby didn't come impose himself or herself on me." And I chose to have a teenager by having a baby. Okay, like that is to say, even when they're difficult, even when it's hard, I have a responsibility to them, not the other way around. I chose to partner with somebody who I knew was imperfect, and I'm imperfect. So just resenting is a way of making ourselves feel like we're owed and feel superior without really taking responsibility for our choices. So it's a indulgent emotion, or it can be.
Hmm. And drawing more on resentment, going deeper, does it help us or inhibit us by spiraling or keeping us stuck? What are the effects on our mental health when we sit in resentment?
Mm. Well, I think what we're telling ourselves is that we're powerless and that other people have power over us. And
Hmm.
look, none of us has full control over everything, of course. That's just not the way life works. But we always have control over ourselves and how we respond to life and what we're going to choose and what we're going to do and whether or not we respect our own choices. And so it's if we tell ourselves that we are powerless, our resentment will go up, our depression will go up, and our anxiety will go up. And so it's not a truthful message, and therefore it is not good for our mental health. Now, what is true is people's choices do affect me. People do things that disappoint me. I can't have everything I want. I think those are true statements, but I have the power to do what I respect. I have the ability to do what I think would make the situation better. I have the ability to affect this situation in a positive way if I choose to. So it's like leaning into what we actually can control. And when we
Hmm.
do that, it's good for our mental health. The psyche doesn't want to feel powerless. That's for sure.
And the word power is so important in our motherhood. As I have grown, my children are 6, 4, and 2, so they're still very, very young. But I have noticed in myself that I have to take different steps and I have to gain confidence so that I'm able to be the leader of my little flock. I have to recognize I'm responsible for teaching them, and as I am able to enhance their skills, their own resilience, their ability to emotionally regulate, all of our power is given back to us when I own the role of a true teacher.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like kind of claiming something internally, which actually liberates and frees up our children. Like I remember sometimes when I was raising my kids, if they weren't doing what I wanted and I could go in my mind, into a victim position. Why haven't you been, just like kind of like you're ruining my life. I mean, I don't know if I was saying that, but it's just sort of that energy of like, you guys are being the wrong kind of people. And it was really striking for me when I would self-confront before opening my Yap and just say like, no, just own my authority as the parent and do what's needed right now. And so I would speak differently and the energy was different and it wasn't victimy and it wasn't, hostile. It was just, hey, this is what I need you to do. Can you put that away, please? Can you come in the kitchen and set the table? Whatever it was. But they would respond so differently because I was in a regulated position and claiming what my job was in that interaction.
And our energy is so transferable. If we're able to just take a quick moment and get ourselves in the right energy, our words to our children, the way that they're going to respond is so different. I also find that helping everybody see that we're a team, right? Like think of your family like the team and then add your last name. And we're going to
Yeah.
take action so that our team can win, our team can succeed, and your little children will get so excited about this idea.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they don't really have these traditions or these foundations yet. And so they need their mom or their dad or whatever care providers they have for them to create this sense of unity
Uh, oh, I
within their
love it.
family unit.
We all want so much to belong. And if I get to belong to this team and I have a role, that is really good for mental health. It's really good for kids and it's very motivating. Like everybody wants to be a part of this collective thing. If it's like mom is acting upon me and I have to do what she says, you get more antagonism rather than a collective identity that's all working together.
I love that concept of being a model for your children. One of my favorite things to flip on its head is my son saying, "My brother made me mad," and teaching him, "No, he didn't make you. You have the power there. You have that ownership and the control over the choices." So I love this conversation. Let's move on a little bit to body image and how all of this mental change and the physical changes affect our body image.
If it's throwing you off, and no shocker, I remember just being kind of like blown away by how much my body was changing. Like I'd read all the books and they'd say you put on 25 to 30 pounds or something. I would put on like 40 to 50. I mean, my body would just lay it down. I mean, it was, I don't know why, but it just did. And I'd sometimes go to the doctor and they'd be like, "Now, are you eating ice cream?" I mean, I would be like, "No, I am not eating ice cream. I am being very healthy, actually." So it was not easy for me at times because I was like, why does everybody else seem to like, put on 22 pounds their whole pregnant? My point is it can be easy to move into this kind of judgment or this idea about how you should look or what your body should do. And it's changing so quickly. And it's doing a job, a very, very important job. And it's going to do what your body needs to do. Right. I mean, like, yes, treat your body well. Yes, eat healthfully because it's good for you. But your body's going to do what it's going to do. And so, again, it's just going back to that core issue of compassion and just saying, like, eh, eh, my body isn't just here for its aesthetic, and I don't have to judge it from some external place. And what always helped me was to just kind of be in awe of the fact that my body could do this at all. Like it was kind of insane that the female body can create another human being. Like it was just like amazing. And I think I would sometimes go into this like it's not attractive idea, like this idea that I'm not attractive because I've put on this weight but my husband just was like not buying it. And he would just be like, "Look, there's nothing it's like so amazing that's fertility, like what your body can do. It like represents your capacity. It's attractive. Like everything about it is radiant and amazing." And it meant in a way like trusting that because I don't think we're socialized as women into our power and into what strength our bodies have. And so it helped me to kind of push my mind in that direction and to hold on to that truth, um, and go along for the ride in a way. Like, like my body seems to know better than I do what it needs to do, and that in of itself is amazing.
Kelly LeVeque wrote a book called Body Love. And in it, she says, like, your body is not an apology. Your body is a masterpiece.
It's so true.
And just thinking our little babies, they're a miracle. And when we look at them as a masterpiece, when we can see ourselves as a masterpiece, all of a
Yeah.
sudden the energy shifts.
If I could do anything, I wish I could have like given myself that mindset right from the beginning. So it wasn't so like, but I don't recognize myself. I can't find anything that fits. But it is amazing what the female body does. And these beautiful little babies that come out of us are just, it's just all miraculous and incredible.
And is that mindset just cultivated over time through practice? Because, I feel like we're all on that journey, and sometimes it's easier to give that validation to other people that we're looking good or doing the right thing. How can we do it more so it's coming from within?
Yeah, it's just a mindset shift because it's exactly what I was doing in the beginning. I was kind of referencing externally and I was like, everything is saying I'm not doing it right, you know? And I think by the end, my last pregnancy, I was like, I know my body. I know what it's going to do. I trust myself more. And maybe there's just something developmental. I think at first I'm looking outside to say what is normal and what is right. I want to do the right thing, but learning more that my body was wiser and to just lean in and trust it and be okay with who I am. And so that's just takes some practice. And also I think it helps to recognize look, we live in a very, how to say it, external validation world. We
Mm.
live in a world that's very focused on female appearance. Uh, and it's easy to judge one another. So it helped me in a way to kind of track that and say no to that. I'm not gonna, like it was like more deliberate in me to say no to it, but to understand it as in some ways a way that our culture denies female power, female strength as just how remarkable our bodies are in producing life.
You mentioned really briefly about finding something that fits, like in your closet. And what I want to say to that point is during pregnancy, you are going to have a lot of shifts, right? So, like before you actually need maternity clothing, your regular clothing doesn't fit, but you don't feel like you need maternity clothing. So,
Exactly.
you have to buy a size that will work for you for those, 3 months. And then you're in your maternity clothing. And then after your baby comes, you're in kind of like your nursing clothing, which is a little different because you need certain things accessible and your body is a larger size. For many of us, we don't get to go home in our pre-pregnancy jeans. And just find something cute in the size that fits your current body, even if it's only for 2 or 3 months. There's so
Yeah.
many ways that you can either find a thrifted closet or you can shop online, but
Yes.
wear something that makes you feel really cute that fits your
Yep.
current size because there's a lot of shift. And for me, I feel like it's taken about 2 years for each of my babies born to feel like, okay, like now I'm not in between sizes anymore.
Yeah, it takes a while. It takes a minute afterwards. I mean, I think I was in the idea that, that like, I don't know, a month or two later, everything would be, for me, it wasn't. It was 9 months up, 9 months down at least, if not more. And yes to the idea of, first of all, it's all changing and depending on your budget because I had no budget. You're doing your best. I remember like borrowing stained clothes from my sister and being so excited because because at least it was something different. I was like really like, oh, I'll take it. I'll just whatever. But yeah, if you can, like, yeah, feel good. Like if you're able to do it and embrace it and and understand that that's going to probably mean, what it meant for me is I would wear something a lot through several weeks and I would find a new thing that I liked, wear that a lot. And that's okay. You just do what you can.
Continuing to build on this conversation we've been in of external validation. And I think just the more we can have these conversations with people who do feel this way and are supportive of beauty at every size, the more we'll be able to cultivate that mindset ourselves, not looking to people who do believe in beauty in only one size or external validation. I remember my husband, he is very supportive on this journey and he tells me I'm beautiful anyway. And I really had to beat it out of him But okay, what are your actual preferences so I can get some motivation to also work towards my goals, but still he's just been very supportive along the way too. What if you have a spouse that is not so supportive or really is kind of judgmental about your body image?
That's tough. I mean, yeah. I mean, really, what a gift to have a spouse that's like, look, I love you, whatever size you are, it's you. I mean, what you're doing for our family, what your body's doing is amazing. So when you have the gift of that, it's just wonderful. To not have it, oh gosh. I mean, as it's hard enough, like just in the culture and so on, and being in so much transition. But I think seeing it for what it is, because only insecure people or people that don't know how to really love another person are going to sit around and judge and make pronouncements about how you should look or, what size you should be by now or whatever. And that's just coming out of weakness. And I think that's the real antidote is to understand that it's coming out of a limited place. That's still not going to be easy when the one you love and the one you want to love you is in a place of critique. Um, but people are critical of others when they're insecure and when they want to feel better than and when they want to manage, how their partner looks so that others see them in a certain way. But it comes out of limitation. Doesn't make it easy, but at least recognize it as a weak position, not a strong one.
Do you have any resources or courses that can help partners in this regard?
Well, I have a course called The Art of Loving that's for men, and it's about talking to men about how to be more loving partners, both emotionally and sexually.
Mm.
And really, like the first half of the course is really around looking at how do I actually relate to my spouse? Do I choose her? Do I love her? Do I go one up? Do I, try to keep her happy with me, but I'm not very honest with her? So it just is a way of looking more at who you are and then how that's related to who you are as an intimate partner, who you are as a sexual partner, and so on. So, yeah, my courses are very much about helping people develop themselves to be capable of collaborative, intimate relationships. And, you know, having children brings a lot of our immaturities to the surface. And if we can see them and address them and grow in the face of what we see, we get stronger. If we blame, refuse to see, refuse to acknowledge, then we don't get stronger. But my courses are really designed to help people see themselves more clearly and to reach for better.
What a beautiful premise. We'll absolutely link your courses and your website in our show notes. Are there any other resources that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, beyond the courses, I do a podcast called Room for Two, which is where I work with real couples. Their voices are distorted and they have, pseudonyms, but I'm doing coaching with them around the issues inherent to marriage, sexuality, parenting, right? And so you get to see like how I'm actually working with the couple. It helps people see themselves, see what they need to change or address, see their partner more clearly. So a lot of people love this resource because it's like getting coaching sessions, but you get to be sort of on the out. You don't have to be sitting in the hot seat. And you can learn a lot by seeing how you see yourself in other couples and then you see what I'm saying to them about how they can grow and change.
So valuable. It's so great to learn from other people and their experiences.
Yeah.
We don't want to go through all the experiences ourselves, or if we are going through it and we can hear that someone else is, it's so encouraging. And I think it's just talking with you is another tool in the toolbox, just preparing for the sexual changes, for the body changes, and all of those things that come with pregnancy and birth. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners this week?
Oh, just that it's such an amazing time. And people used to say that to me, and I'm like, yeah, but like I don't know. It's there's a lot going on and your body's changing and and you're not getting any sleep after the baby's born. But now that my kids are all young adults and it's just so precious, I look back and I think, "Oh my gosh, they were so sweet and so cute." And it's just it's miraculous and amazing and hard work and overwhelming and sometimes, depressing. So like that's all true too. But if you can see the beauty in it in the moment, well, it helps a lot.
And thank you for providing resources to help us do that hard work.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It has been fabulous. Thank you for joining us on the Best Birth Podcast.
Thank you.